Hi everybody, welcome to Aisha's English Oasis, aka AEO. This is what's in your teaching toolbox, the Christmas edition. In today's video, we're going to talk about digital Christmas presents and how you can make them in Google Slides for your students. So let's go to Google Slides. So here we are in Google Slides, and as you can see, I've got a number of slides here, and they're all about the different Christmas presents I can give to my students. They are essentially Christmas links, and they are about cool websites and Christmas short films. But of course, you can add anything you want to this list of Christmas presents. You can include Christmas recipes, Christmas crafting ideas, etc. You can also modify these Christmas presents for your classes. So you can have special Christmas presents for young learners, adolescents, adults, etc. Okay, so let's see what's on this first slide. So here we've got our title page. Then here we've got some Christmas music. So that's the first thing. I usually like to use classical music. So these are usually taken from YouTube. And this particular playlist is from the Hallidan Music channel on YouTube. Let's move on. This is a site that I absolutely love. It's called the Free Site. And on this site, students can find a variety of things for free that they can actually use in their daily lives. The next one is actually some ebooks for all ages and levels. They're normally classical books that students can also use. Reading in English is always fun. This is another favorite website that I like sharing with my students. It's called futureme.org. And it's a website where students can actually write to their future selves. It's great writing practice for anyone of any age. The next website is also a favorite. This is 123greetings.com. And this is where students can actually write and send e-cards, electronic cards, to each other, as well as to their friends and family. Again, it's good writing practice, and it's great for anyone wanting to maybe practice receiving and sending cards in a classroom setting as well, or just outside of the classroom. So it's something that you can do as an exercise in class, and it's something you can also get the students to do outside of class, some real world practice. Now, the next one is a Christmas short film. And I normally include 2 of these for my students, and I normally try to include ones that can be used for different levels as well. These can normally be found on YouTube. So the first one is called The Lost Letter, and I'll make sure to include the links to all of these.
Some say.
The second one is called The Gift. And as you can see, it was once a Disney Christmas advert. Christmas adverts are usually fantastic to me because they are normally a little longer than most adverts. And I think they're usually quite fun. And they after all the Christmas season really that festive spirit, you know. So that's it. My Christmas present to my students. And this is something that you can easily put together for your students as well. As I said before, you can add or take away various things. So you can put in additional websites so that you can have maybe more than, here I've got a total of 12 slides. If you add additional websites, you can have maybe up to 20 slides. Personally, I wouldn't exceed 20 slides, but that's entirely up to you. And as I said before, you can include things like your Christmas recipes, Christmas crafting ideas, Christmas games, etc. But this is something you can always pop into the chat box if you're online. This is something you can share with face-to-face classes as well by simply putting up the link to the slides. So remember, you can always go to the share button in order to share this link with your students. You can even create a QR code for your students. So you can put the QR code on the board and your students can simply scan that QR code, which will then give them access to these online Christmas presents. So there you have it, digital Christmas presents for your students. Just a quick Christmas idea that you might want to use. I like to create Christmas vocabulary slides. So I like to put up Christmas pictures onto different Google Slides, and I can use those slides in many ways. I can use them for my starters or my warmers, my class coolers as well, my lineup Q&A, meaning that if a picture is on the slide before a child enters the classroom, before a student enters the classroom, I can simply ask them, what's on the slide? If they tell me the correct answer, they get to enter the class. If the answer is not correct, they can go to the back of the line and I'll give them an opportunity to try again. You can also use the pictures on the slides for games and quizzes. You can use them like a kind of digital flashcard. You can share the slides with students so that they can, play games at home. They can study the vocabulary at home, etc. They can also copy the slides and modify them in any way, shape, or form. So you can get them to actually use the pictures to create their own games that they can perhaps use in class as well. Okay, let's go to these slides so you can see an idea of how I've managed to do them. So here we are in Google Slides, and here's an example of how you can put together your vocabulary slides list. So I've got a title page, and here I've used images from the Cambridge Spanish website, blog.cambridge.es/media-gallery/. And the reason why I use a lot of pictures from this particular website is because I was working in Spain for many years. And as you can see, these are beautifully annotated posters. They've got all of the English words pointing to different lovely images. Sometimes they have the levels as well, which is quite helpful. And as you can see, you've got really beautiful pictures and, many different topics and themes for Christmas. Here you've got an example of Christmas phrasal verbs. More Christmas phrasal verbs. And here, in this particular example, you've got English expressions. but you've also got the Spanish expressions to go with those English expressions as well. So this was one of the reasons why I decided to use the Spanish website, the Spanish Cambridge website. However, you can also use the pictures in your classrooms that don't have the English, Spanish expressions and words. But make sure that you're using pictures that are interesting, as well as, you know, pictures that are colorful. So here I've also made a Christmas vocabulary quiz. By the way, I'll just go back to these pictures. Now, when you're putting your Christmas vocabulary list together, make it not a very long one, but make sure that you're putting up things that you want your students to learn and to use in their speaking exercises, their listening exercises, their writing exercises, so that you're using these words and expressions again and again. You're revisiting them from time to time throughout the Christmas season. You want them to learn these words and expressions and use them throughout the Christmas season. Now, for the Christmas vocabulary quiz, I normally just get pictures from Google, and I would ask a simple question like, what is this? So I'll start with the easy pictures, the easy words that are popular and famous. That I guess my students should already know. And notice I've got just random Christmas pictures in the background. And then, you know, here I've got a picture I got from Google Images. It's also a good idea to add music to each slide, because sometimes you can just use your vocabulary list as a kind of class backdrop. So if you project this onto a smartboard or just a normal whiteboard, you can have music playing softly in the background and these images just coming up every maybe 2 seconds. So as your students are working, they have something lovely to kind of look up and look at, or, you know, make sure the lights are maybe a bit low. If you're doing like a speaking exercise, you've got these images in the background. You're creating your own kind of music video, if you will, in the background, just to create a really nice working environment. You can also use these in different classroom games. So for example, this could be part of a board game where students have to run and then write the word, you know, on the picture. So you can have them in teams, and it can be like ready, steady, go, or ready, set, go. The students can run up to the board and write the words on the board as well. So you can use these in a variety of ways. So here I've got the different Christmas plants and things like that. Yeah, so as you can see, just a simple vocabulary picture list that you can do in slides. And you can use these in a variety of games as well. Now, in this example, I decided to only add pictures. I decided to do that because, as I said, I can get my students to write the words in games. However, if you're thinking of making a copy of this for your students, it might be worth adding the words to the pictures so that they can study independently at home. It might be worth putting the words in the speaker notes. That way, the students can quickly go through the different pictures and they can see the words and learn them that way. And it, when it's time to quiz themselves, they can click on the slideshow and try to remember the words. Now, to this particular slide, I also added a video from YouTube, the Christmas Vocabulary English Quiz. And that way they can also see more Christmas vocab. So there might be things in this video that are not actually in my particular vocab list. And it's something different, it's something interesting. And this is also a quiz that they can take part in at home or in class individually. So this can be, for example, for those fast learners or fast finishers, after they've done an exercise, they can do this individually whilst they're waiting for the others to finish. That's it, the end for this little part. So yes, please do try creating your Christmas vocab lists because you can use them in a variety of ways. Okay, so next I'm going to talk about some Christmas games that I liked playing in class, online, or face-to-face. So let's go. Now, here's a game that I liked playing a lot in class. It's called the Christmas Tree Relay. Now, I don't recall where I first heard about this game, but basically, as you can see on the board, or on the screen, sorry, I've got 2 Christmas trees, one on the right, one on the left, and I've got a timer. So basically, you can use any Christmas cards that you've got, any flashcards or word cards, and you can basically divide your class into teams for this one. You don't even have to really get involved. You can basically appoint flashcard readers or flashcard demonstrators for each team. So somebody, or the games master or mistress, would basically either show the picture of, let's say, tinsel, or the Christmas star or something like that. And the students who see that picture would have to run up to their team's respective Christmas tree and quickly write the name of the picture that they've seen. The team that does that the quickest, I guess, gets the point. Or you can show them a number of pictures or call out a number of words, and they would have to either write them or draw them on the Christmas tree. You decide how you want to play the game. So it could be that they see a picture and they write the word onto the Christmas tree, or you call out the word and they draw the image, they draw the word, but they've only got a minute to do this. So yes, it's a fun little game that you can always play with your students. The next game is about Christmas desserts. And this is a board race, and I usually use magnets for this one. So I would call out, for example, Christmas pudding. And again, you can put your students in teams, so you can get them to do this individually. So you hear the word Christmas pudding, you basically grab your magnet and you run up to the board and you place your magnet on the picture. Or you can use this again, make it a bit more fun. So here I've got Christmas crackers. So I had created these previously, and I went to online stopwatch to do this. So here you've got a Christmas cracker, and I added a number of words, and these words were basically taken from this list of Christmas desserts. So you basically click here. The word is cheese and crackers. So when the students see that, they have to run to the board and they have to put their magnet onto the cheese and crackers. So you would then remove that one. You click on the cracker again. It opens up to chocolate pudding. And so they would have to then, run and put their magnet onto the chocolate pudding. For this, I would normally split the screen in two. So maybe on the right, you would have the words from the Christmas cracker. And then on the left, you've got the images. The next game, what has Santa got in his beard? So here I created, I had these Christmas stickers and I just put some of the stickers onto Santa's beard. You can draw this on a board or create it digitally as well. And this is great for young learners. So Santa's got, for example, 3 Christmas trees in his beard. You can get them to write sentences. Santa's got 4 snowflakes in his beard, something like that. Or you can make it a race. The person who writes the sentence the fastest maybe gets a point or something like that. The next game, Christmas flashcard and spoon, like Christmas egg and spoon, I guess. So again, you can use your Christmas flashcards for this one, and you can use this for older students as well, because remember I had shown you my Christmas vocabulary list. So you can actually make flashcards from that list. So basically, you say the word gingerbread man or bow or candy cane or something like this. Oh, I forgot to tell you. You basically put all of these flashcards onto a table in the middle of the class. You divide your students into teams and you would say a word, for example, bells. The students would look at the flashcards on the table. They would grab the flashcard bell. They would run to the front of the class and place that flashcard into a bowl. The fastest person to do that gets the point. So they would have to literally look at the number of flashcards on the table, sort through those, grab the correct flashcard, put it onto their spoon, race to the front of the class and drop that into the bowl all within a minute. If your flashcard falls off of the spoon and onto the floor, you've got to basically take it back to the table and start again. So it makes it very interesting. The next game is like Twister. So as you can see, you've got some students here playing the game. It's a Twister mat, but it's got different Christmas images like a Christmas pudding, an elf, etc. So you can have somebody saying right foot Santa, left foot Rudolph, and they've got to place themselves in the correct position. So just a fun one. You can make this mat yourself as well, but I happen to have the game. Here you've got a bigger picture of younger learners trying to participate in this game. The next one is Jingle Bells, a Jingle Bells bowling game. So if you've got what should we call it? These bowling pins, you can set them up in your classroom, and you can use jingle bells to topple them over. I was able to play this game because I had very small bowling pins and very large jingle bells. So it was fun. But if you don't want to do that, what you can do is this. You can actually use Christmas cards and little Christmas figurines, and students can use their jingle bells to knock these cards over as well. This is equally as fun. Another game is to use Christmas hats and stockings as ball catchers. So I usually call this bouncy ball catch. It's a game I made up, and you've got a minute to catch as many bouncy balls or bouncing balls as possible. You've got a minute to do this, so you can literally have students play in pairs or teams for this one. One student is responsible for bouncing the ball, and the other student is responsible for catching that ball in their hat or stocking. At the end of 1 minute, you then count up the balls to see how many balls have been caught. The student or the team who has the most balls wins. Snowball fight. Now, I have a lot of these Christmas snowballs. They're made out of sometimes styrofoam, sometimes just this squidgy, squishy material. So, no one is going to get hurt if you're playing like dodgeball or if you've got a fake snowball fight in your class. It's just a way to get your students to let loose in the classroom before you maybe change a stage in your lesson, or just as a brain break or something like that. Again, they've got a minute to just kind of fight it out in the classroom. Students love this. You can also do this with paper. Just simply ball up a sheet of paper, and you can get them to toss the paper balls at each other. You can also write things, get them to write maybe Christmas wishes, on the piece of paper, or additional tasks for the students to do. So after 1 minute, you basically pick up one of these paper balls, you unfurl the paper ball, and then you read what's written on the sheet of paper, and maybe you have to do this additional task or something like this. But it's a great way to get the students to kind of, just let loose, not think about many things, just to have fun. So it's a great brain break, So you can use this to also transition from one stage of the lesson to the other by just having a bit of fun in between. It's a kinesthetic activity, so they're up, they're moving, they're running around, they're having fun, they're now energized for what's next. The next one, it's another game that I love, and I tend to use candy canes for this. In fact, you can play a number of candy cane games at Christmas. So if you see these in your local supermarket, please get a whole bunch of candy canes because you can use them in a number of different ways. YouTube is full of all sorts of videos showing you how to use candy canes in games for the classroom, for your family and friends, etc. For the candy cane catch game, you can use string for this game. So you can tie a bit of string, maybe on a classroom desk. So you can tie a bit of string on one desk to another, or one chair to another, or, across from one wall to the other. And students have to drop candy canes onto the string, but they've got to drop, as many candy canes as they can onto a string, all within a minute, so that could be the game. Or you can play this game, which I prefer, the candy cane pick up sticks game. Don't know why I called it that, but you can change the name. Here I've got some jingle bells, and as you can see, the jingle bells have got these string loops tied to them. My students have to use the candy canes to pick up the jingle bells and put them in their little jars or cups. Now, the person who can do this as many times as possible in a minute wins. So at the end of the minute, we literally count the number of jingle bells that are in the cups. So that's an interesting little game that you can play with your students. If you're online, we have some Christmas online games. So this YouTube video is called Christmas Would You Rather. You can find a lot of them on YouTube. And whilst playing this game, you can also use your sequencing linkers. You can practice using your sequencing linkers. You can also practice using your expressions for giving examples as well. So let's just have a quick look at this YouTube video. So for example, would you rather be an elf or a snowman? And I can say, I'd rather be an elf because blah, 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 or seeing that elves are blah, 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 I'd rather be one due to the fact that blah, 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 something like that. Right, so this next one is the wordless Christmas tree, and here I used auto draw for this one. So if you go to the auto draw website, for those of you who know auto draw, it's just a very simple and easy way of getting students to, draw something digitally. You'll also have an AI tool here that you can also use as well. So if you draw something, it gives you suggestions of what that might be. So if you want something a little sleeker than your own drawing, you can use it. So you can always play around with auto draw. Anywho, we're not talking about auto draw today. So basically you can select 2 words from any word list that you want your students to practice. That could also be your Christmas word list. And then your Christmas tree must represent or symbolize these 2 words. So whatever words that your students choose from a word list of your choice, they've got to draw a Christmas tree that represents those words. So here I've got an example in the drawing below, C1 student. So here I use it in a C1 class, but you can use it for any level. Chose from his word list the words brutal and imaginative. And here's what he came up with. So this is what he actually created in AutoDraw, a brutal and imaginative Christmas tree. Now here I've got some instructions for them. For my students, you will have to share your picture and justify why it represents or symbolizes the words you've chosen and to be convincing. The other students will then have to agree or disagree with you. Okay, so this is a little fun activity that I liked to do with all of my levels. And as I said, you can easily do this in an online class, but you can also do it in a face-to-face class as well. So students can use their mobile phones, they can use their tablets, or you can take them into a media room or something like that, and they can use a PC as well. If you're in Zoom, you can create a Christmas alphabet chat box bomb. So let's just read the instructions. Write all the Christmas words you know in alphabetical order in the chat box. So when your teacher says the letter, so when your teacher says A, for example, you can write angel, B, bells, etc. If you don't know a word, just write the letter. Look at this example. Only click enter when your teacher has called the last letter and says enter. Everyone's Christmas alphabet list will appear in the chat box at the same time. So this creates insane chat box activity. But the moment the teacher says A, you write your word in the chat box. B, you write your word. If you cannot think of a word, then just write the letter B. C, you write your Christmas word. So you have to kind of try to recall all the Christmas words that you know. And it's just a bit of fun. Again, this can be a brain break. This can be a cooler or warmer, just a quick activity just to get your students kind of thinking of the words you've maybe covered, or they can even write an expression beginning with the letter or something like this. So these are just some quick Christmas ideas or games that you can play in your classroom. Okay, so at Christmas, I like to do a number of Christmas speaking activities, especially for my higher levels. I love to have Christmas discussions, Christmas debates, Christmas speaking activities that are also exam related. So let's get into it. First of all, you can find a lot of discussion topics online. Personally, I love to go to esldiscussions.com because they have alphabetized their discussion topics, so you can find exactly what you want. If you go to the section where it says Christmas, you can find this discussion worksheet, and they're usually done so that pairs can do these discussions. But again, you can decide how you want to use these discussion questions. You can have students talking in groups. You can create games from these discussion topics, etc. Anyway, on this particular worksheet, you've got student A's questions as well as student B's questions. You can also use these in your writing tasks. So you can choose a discussion topic to be a writing task. It could be something that's essay-based, it could be a letter. So you can also decide the genre of writing as well. So anyway, once again, the website is www.esldiscussions.com, and you can find a number of other topics. But since this is a Christmas video, you've got Christmas discussion questions. I also love having Christmas debates, and this idea for the Christmas debate I got from the website eslkidsgames.com. This is a great website for a number of different things. These particular topics I got from eslkidsgames.com. So please check out their website. Now, this is how I normally do my Christmas debates. I choose a topic from the list below. Not I choose, sorry, my students choose a topic from the list below. And then they decide which debate team is for and which is against the topic. And this is a great way to practice all the linking words you've been teaching them as well. You might want to put up specific linking words you want them to use in their debates, or any other speaking strategy you've taught them as well. They've got 10 minutes thinking time to prepare the topic, and this can be done in teams or in pairs. For example, in groups or in pairs. You decide how you want to do your debate. Normally, I have them in teams. I might give them 10 or 15 minutes, depending on how competent they are at this type of thing. Or you can give them 20 minutes, 25 minutes, depending on how detailed you want this to be, I guess. So you start the debate. First, each team gives their arguments without interruptions. Each speaker in a team speaks for 1 minute. So in a team, you might have 4 students. Each student speaks for about a minute. So they also have to decide in their teams who's going to speak about what, because you don't want them repeating ideas either. For the rebuttal part of the debate, I usually give them a 10-minute free-for-all. Each team criticizes each other's arguments. And then you can do steps 1 to 4 all over again with a different debate topic. These particular topics, as I said, I got from eslkidsgames.com. They're pretty simple topics, but interesting ones and fun ones. You know, you don't want this to be too intellectual, I guess, simply because you also want the students to tackle a topic that they all have something to talk about, a topic that they may be all familiar with, that they all know, but fun as well. Or you can create your own topics. Now, in this next part, we're going to be talking about creating exam-related speaking tests for those students who are doing, for example, the Cambridge exams. So if you're preparing students for the Cambridge B2 and C1 exams, or even the Cambridge B1 exam, any type of exam, make sure that your activities, your Christmas activities, are also related to those exams, so that you're also practicing these exams, you're practicing the skills that are necessary, because a lot of these students will be doing the exams straight after the Christmas holidays. They might have, for example, exams in January. So you want to continue doing what you've been doing for the entire academic year or for that first term. You don't want to kind of waste time doing something that's not exam related as well. You want to have fun, you want to talk about Christmas, but it's a good idea to keep that in mind when you've got students preparing for exams. Now, for the Christmas speaking exams, you can actually use these in your mock exams. So maybe you want to have mock exams before the Christmas holidays, but you want them to be Christmas themed. You can also use these types of exams for that. Or maybe you just want this to be fun, but you want your students to practice amongst themselves, so you can share this link with your students. Either way, it's good to remind them of the things they need to do for each part of the exam. So here I've got a speaking mock reminder sheet, just reminding students of the things that are important, that they might not remember to do as they're taking part in this Christmas-themed speaking exam. Here's an example of a Cambridge B2 exam. So it's an FCE or B2 Christmas speaking test. I don't remember where I got the pictures for the exams. I think I got them online, or maybe I got them from a teacher who had a very similar idea. Or you can also create your own pictures as well. The point is, these types of Christmas related tests or Christmas theme tests are available online as well. So because this is a Cambridge B2 exam, there are 4 parts. So students by this time would already be aware of the different parts, but it's, you know, it's worth reminding them of the different parts and the time that's allocated to each part, especially if they're doing this autonomously. So if you want them to kind of go off and work in pairs or in threes, you can get them to do that. Or if you're doing this exam, you know, as a mock exam, then you'll be aware of all of these things as the interlocutor. Anyway, so you've got some simple questions for part 1 here. For part 2 of the exam, this is where the students have to compare and contrast pictures for 1 minute. And I think these pictures, as I said, they were created by someone else online, and I was able to use their idea for this. So if you're already familiar with the Cambridge exam, you'll know that this is very much in the vein of what the students are asked to do. So student A, these pictures show different ways of spending the 25th of December, Christmas Day. I'd like you to compare and contrast the pictures and see how you think the people in the photos are feeling and why. So they've got to compare and contrast using their linking words for 1 minute. And then student B would have to then answer a 30-second question. And this question is, how do you usually spend Christmas Day? So as I said, students can do this in pairs, on their own, or in threes, for example. So these would be student B's pictures and questions, student A's 30-second question. And if they're doing this in threes, then this would be student C's questions and pictures. For part 3, they've got to speak together. And for this part, I've gone old school. I decided to use images instead of words. As you know, in the new Cambridge B2 exam, they've got like a mind map with words. But before 2015, they used to use images. Seeing that it's Christmas, I decided to use pictures because these are like Christmas presents, right? So here it says, you and your partner have decided to buy a Christmas present for your English teacher, Aisha, me, since you both have enjoyed your classes so much. I'm going to give you some pictures with possible presents, and I would like you to speak for about 2 minutes to compare the various options. Obviously, if they're in a group, then it would have to be, I would like them to speak for 3 minutes. Now, as I said, I think I got all of this from a teacher who had posted online. I just don't remember the website or the article or where the teacher had posted all of this, and then I simply adapted or modified what he or she had done to suit my class and my students. Here we've got speaking part 4, and again, this is just a simple Q&A. So this is very much like the Cambridge exam. Then I would have that's the end of the test. So something like this I would normally share with my students. Now, just as a little additional thing, something that has nothing to do with the test. I just need, well, for this part, it is related to the test because I'm just reminding them of how I would like them to be assessed. Something very, very simple. So they can actually give each other points. So this is something that you can do for your students as well. Try not to make it too complicated, especially if they're working autonomously. So just a reminder of things that they have to do and say in order to get the different points if they want to use a point system. I've also got extra speaking activities on this for those fast finishers or those students who have finished and they want additional practice. So for speaking part 2, which is a problematic part of the test for many students, I've got additional speaking activities. So in this part, they can really pay attention to how they compare and contrast pictures using linkers. And students can also create their own speaking part 2 activities because, as you can see, it's not very difficult to do. So you can get them to create their own activities and then they can swap those questions and images with other groups or pairs. Here you've got speaking parts 3 and 4. So an additional activity. This is more in line with what's actually done in the real exam. As you can see, it is a mind map. You don't have images, you've got the words. This was taken from an FCE or B2 book. I just don't recall what I should have put it in the speaking notes, but I didn't. So it's here as an example. This is not something I came up with, but it's a very simple thing to do. So getting students to create their own part 3 examples is a great idea. And for part 4, they simply have to come up with a few questions to ask each other so they can practice this part. And by the way, you can also use the discussion questions from the ESL discussions website for part 4 as well, or get your students to create their own questions. But these are additional exercises you can get your students to do. Here I've got to find someone who, so this is an activity you can finish off with. Students love to do things like this. Once again, I got this from somewhere, I just don't remember where, but these were find someone who Christmas cards. But you can always create your own or get the students to create their own. And this can be done as a class, a group activity. You can also finish off with a Christmas quiz. Students love Christmas quizzes. I've got the answers here to the quiz. You can put them in different groups, etc. for the quiz. So don't just do the test and leave it at that. It's a good idea to do the test, you know, especially if you want them to work autonomously. They can just go off and do the test, make sure you have extra activities for them to do. It's worth getting them to do different parts of the test, especially the problematic parts like part 2, where they've got to compare and contrast something. Get them to work on these parts, get them to create their own examples, get them to share them, get them to use each other's examples. And then when you're finished with that, it's always a good idea to have, you know, little fun quizzes or games like find someone who, etc. You can do the same for other levels. So here is the C1 Christmas speaking test. You can use the same questions for part 1, for example, or you know, you can make the questions a little more difficult. It's up to you. Here, as you can see, I use the same pictures for part 2, but in the C1 exam, instead of 2 pictures, you've got 3 pictures. So I simply added another picture. So you can adapt and modify things. You don't have to reinvent the wheel, you know, use what you've got. So yeah, as you can see, same pictures, but I just added a third one because the exams are very, very similar in their structure. For part 3, I've done the same thing essentially, but I've simply used different pictures, but the task is the same. For part 4, I used more sophisticated questions because it is C1, so just a little more difficult. So yeah, that would be an example of how to do it if you're teaching C1. So the long and short of it is this: whatever exam you're preparing your students for, make sure that you incorporate something that's Christmas themed, something that's a bit lighthearted and fun, but not neglecting the exam preparation skills and knowledge that they need in order to pass their particular exams. But, you know, try to make things, as I said, fun and continue teaching the skills and techniques that they need to pass their exams. Talking about exam preparation, for those who know about the Cambridge main suite exams, you'll also know that for the higher levels, the reading and use of English is normally a difficult paper to do. So I would also recommend doing something Christmas themed that is related to this particular paper. And here I've got a quick example of what I've done. And this example was also taken from somebody's worksheet on the internet or something that somebody had done on the internet. Once again, this was done a few years ago and I had forgotten to actually cite that particular person's work, but you can easily create your own worksheets and activities as well. But since I already had this from years ago, I decided to use it as an example. Now, here's an example for the B2 reading and use of English paper. And for this particular example, I had used worksheets from parts 2, 4, and 7 of the exam. So the first one is about good old Saint Nick or Santa Claus, and this was about Saint Nicholas Day. So it doesn't even have to be about Christmas per se, but you know, anything Saint Nick is related to Christmas, really. So here you have an example of a picture of Saint Nick. Okay, so this is, I think, part 7 of the exam. It's simply a reading exercise, and as you can see, students have to read this in its entirety and find the parts that are missing. So here you've got these gaps, these 5 gaps, and they now have to fill in these gaps with examples A to F. You tell the students the time, or they tell you the time in which they've got to do an activity like this, and you can allocate marks, the same marks that are given in the exam. At the end of the activity, you show them the answers. Now, normally after something like this, I would then play a game before moving to the next part of the exam or the reading paper, reading and use of English paper. So in this case, when I had created this, Kahoot had done a St. Nicholas Day quiz. And so after doing that activity, we would do the quiz. And, you know, a lot of the students would actually recall what they had learned from the reading and apply that to the quiz. The next reading exercise was about the first Christmas cards. And for this one, you can do a bit of reading and writing by using 123greetings.com. So as a way to introduce this section, you can get students to write and send Christmas cards to each other. So do something that's related to the activity. Don't just jump into the activity. So here you have an example. So this is part 2 of the reading and writing paper. It's an open-close activity. Once again, you can make this an activity that you have to mark or they have to mark by allocating the different marks, or you can just do it as a fun thing without actually giving marks. So students would do this within the allocated time, which is about 11 minutes or so, and then you show them the answers. And again, play a game after something like this. So do the Jingle Bell bowling with Christmas card game that I had shown you previously, for example. Then it's time to move on to the next activity. I remember I got this as an example from a teacher trainer in my last school. This is something she had created. It's part 4 of the reading and use of English B2 exam. And this is the keyword transformation part. So this is something that another teacher had created, totally Christmas themed. And I thought it was a really good worksheet. So I tried to use it with my students. Now, these were the answers for the activity. And again, you can get your students to create their own worksheets, right? That way they can really get an idea of what exam designers have to do And it's something like that would kind of inculcate what they need to do when they do an exam like this by creating their own worksheets. Then it's good to have additional speaking exercises after an activity like that is done. So I'm not going to go into this particular exercise, but it is a reading and speaking activity that I had got from somewhere. But, always try to do something different and fun. I had a little video and everything like that as well, but that's not important right now. The important thing is to use your exams as an inspiration for, or inspirations for your Christmas themed classes so that you're not wasting any time. You're doing things that are Christmas related, as I said, but also exam related. You're still teaching exam skills and techniques. So even for like your different writing tasks, make sure that you create writing tasks that are exam appropriate, that are exam related, but Christmas themed as well. Okay, then that's all for now, everybody. Those are just some ideas of what you can do in your Christmas classes. So that's what's in your teaching toolbox, the Christmas edition. Thanks for watching. Until next time, bye.